This is 10 with Ken, a 10-minute interview series that's never 10 minutes. In this 10 with Ken special called Black Voices, I'll be speaking with prominent black leaders in Nevada to talk about who they are, their experiences as Americans and Republicans, and what matters most to them. It was an honor to speak with Jennifer Fawzy, a wife, mom, and passionate candidate for elected office. She loves America, its people, and wants it to continue to provide those blessings for her son and future generations. Enjoy.
So I have Mason bringing Mark and Skittles out. So here's the little one.
I love that.
Skittles.
That's Skittles.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Skittles. How cute. What kind of bird is that? A parakeet or what is it?
Yeah, they're parakeets. And Mark just flew away. Did you see him?
I just saw that. I saw him.
Come here, Mark.
Oh my gosh.
He was a little green guy, and we are going to be adding to our bird family. I intend on getting a macaw. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I can't wait. So we've been kind of looking around, and animals are like, I love them.
I love
Come here, Mark,
that.
step up.
Mark's a parakeet as well.
Yeah, they're both parakeets. Mark is over here, but he is rambunctious.
He's flying.
He's flying around. It sounds like a little helicopter.
I heard the fluttering. That is so cool.
Mason loves them. They're best friends. They stay up late, eating snacks together.
Hey, Mark. I heard him. Hey, Mark. How funny. I do. I was hearing them in the background. It's actually kind of peaceful because you can kind of hear that, and oh, I hear that was less peaceful. Is he green? He's green. I saw a green streak across the screen.
Okay, hold him.
That's very cool.
Oh, I've got him. He's okay. Say hi, Mark. Say hi.
Hi, Mark. Jennifer, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me today, and I am so glad to know you for these many years, and wanted to know, help my listeners get to know you and hear from you. And so I wanted to start with, can you tell everybody who you are? Not a lot of people live in, I think you're running for State Senate 7, maybe it's Assembly 7. Can you tell me about that? Not all my listeners live there. Tell me a little bit about you, Jennifer Fawzy, and we'll move on from there.
So it's pronounced Fawzy. I know it's spelled Fawzy, but that was a mistake of my husband. He doesn't speak English as a first language. So, getting the whole phonetic thing, but it's pronounced Fawzy.
Fawzy. That's good to know. Okay, Jennifer Fawzy. Tell me a little bit about yourself. That's wonderful.
So I am a second generation Las Vegas native. I was born right here in Las Vegas. I don't even know if the hospital I was born at still exists. That's how old I've gotten.
Stop it, please.
I'm a millennial. When people think millennials, they're thinking, teenagers, 20-year-olds. Millennials are almost 40.
That's right.
Yeah. So
and you're 29, so that's perfect. That's great.
Right. I am running for state senate in District 8.
District 8. Thank you for correcting me on that. I had that wrong.
Yeah. Well, in 2016, I ran against Dina Neal, and that was Assembly District 7. So I think that's why you kind of held on to 7.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be a journalist. So if you thought I was a journalist, that was a bad misconception. I am just some dude. I should have known that, and my facts will be very often wrong. So
that's okay.
Wonderful.
About me, let's see. Like I said, I'm a millennial. I'm a mom. I work like every other mom nowadays. I have a wonderful 9-year-old little boy named Mason. You probably met him a couple times. If not, you definitely will.
I think I did. I think I met him when he was much younger. Yes.
Yeah, he was like 3.
Yep. Out in the old the old Republican sort of headquarters in Summerlin, it was on like Del Webb and whatever, up in that the 55 plus community. I remember that. Those are good times back in 2016. So very
Wait till you see him now. He's gotten so much bigger.
Oh, I bet. How funny. That's very cool. I got a little 2-year-old. He's down for a nap right now, but he's far enough away so we don't have to be quiet. But he's a little almost 3. I guess he's almost 3 now. So it's changed the world. Having a child of my own. It's crazy.
True. I can't wait to meet him.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure as these campaign season heats up, I'm sure he'll come with me, and he'll be on my shoulders and yelling like we all do. So anyway.
Well, too bad he's like, too young to vote, because he really should be supporting me.
I should. I was gonna say, we live. If you're in Senate 8, I think I'm on the border of Senate 8 and 11. I think I'm right
Okay.
inside 11. So, but he'll be rooting everybody on. So he'll be rooting for the Republican ticket. So
That's right. That's all that matters.
that's very cool. So you're a mom. You've got a 9-year-old son. What about your family? So where's your family? Are they California implants? You said second generation, which
Yeah.
I am as well. So my dad was born here in Las Vegas, and I was born here in Las Vegas as well. So we're both natives.
Yeah, and it's a different experience. People kind of think that, we went to school on the Strip, like we know everything about gambling. I've gambled, not much, because I don't understand what it entails as far as rules, and I don't know how to win or what's the point of the game. So I don't gamble. Um, yeah, people just have this whole stereotype about what it means to be born in Las Vegas, and it's a city like any other city, but then a city not like any other city, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes total sense. It's a very special place to live.
It is.
And when we go on vacation and Walmart's not open at 11 p.m., I get kind of mad. So it's
Yeah.
kind of that 24-hour town that we're used to.
And I think Las Vegas has a lot to offer, as far as food, entertainment. You'll meet people from everywhere, literally. So, and I think that's really unique, um, to Las Vegas. There's glitz and glam, so it makes it attractive for people to come here and movies to be made here. So it's an exciting place, but I don't live anywhere near the Strip. I have no interest in really going to the Strip. Well, I'm going today. I'm going to the Fashion Show Mall today, but typically I don't go on the Strip that very very often.
It is. It is. It's the same for me. I mean, we go and we'll see a show every once in a while, and go down maybe to go to Maggiano's or something. Like you
Oh
said, a
yeah.
fashion show. But there's a whole city outside of it, and especially you running. So you ran for in Assembly District 7 before,
Mhm.
and State Senate 8. What were those races like? And what was it like in 20 compared to, because it was in 2016, right? Or
Mhm.
2015
That
to
was
16,
2016. Yeah.
2016.
Mhm.
Um, Tell me about what you have learned. And obviously, for listeners, she's a Republican candidate for
Yes.
Assembly 7 and Senate 8 now. Tell me about your experiences at the door when someone meets Jennifer Fawzy and meets you at the door, and you're knocking their door and talking to them, and you tell them, I'm a Republican. What's that like? Can you tell us, for the people who don't walk doors, and don't know what that's like? Tell me 2016 versus now too. I want to see, sort of, has there been a comparison difference
Yes.
between them? And maybe you're not knocking doors yet; it's a little early, but tell me about that experience.
In 2016, I'll be perfectly honest, we knew going in that I was going to lose that race. And I think knowing that also kind of made the experience unique. Dina is a wonderful person. Her father was also a politician, and going against a person like her for the first time, having no political experience whatsoever, it was daunting because
To
everyone
say the
knew who she
least.
was. Yeah, and it's like here I am as the underdog, but it's kind of like my motto: you have to be the hero in your own story. And so I got to kind of see the backdrop of what it means to go into politics, um, meeting people, the challenges, especially as a Black Republican. And in Assembly District 7, it's a Democratic area. So we knew, yeah, I was going to take an L for the team. But most of the Black people that live in, I guess, any minority that live in a heavily Democratic area, I was kind of like a unicorn that they didn't think a Black female would be a Republican.
No, I believe that, and it's just so funny because I came from Republican politics these many years, which is why I'm so imbalanced as a person. But it's a very, people don't they look at Assembly District 7 especially, and we won't talk about that old race too much, but we look at those races for those seats that are 2-1 Democrat or
Mhm,
3-1
mhm,
Democrat
mhm.
advantages, and think, oh well, why are we even running a candidate? Why are we even focusing over there? But honestly, like if we can take that, take some of those Democrats and pull them into our corner, even just a little bit,
Yes,
it helps the whole ticket above that. It helps
absolutely.
those races do matter because you want to be talking to voters there, you want them spending money there, and so we can't just write those races off. We can't write that campaign as, oh well, Jennifer, I mean, yes, we know it's gonna, the numbers are not on our side, but to have somebody like you knocking those doors and telling them, like, here's who I am, maybe you could listen to me and just give me a moment of your time. I feel like those are really important, so that's wonderful that you did that.
Thank you, and
That's very
I
cool.
agree. I think, the outcome, of that election could have definitely been different, if there was more support there, and I think as a whole, and I'm not trying to step on toes here, but I think if the GOP would have invested more time and energy, into that race, not just because it's me, but because, again, I do think a lot of the independents there could have been turned, and a lot of the Democrats could have been turned, because at the end of the day, a lot of people now look at politics as policy and person over party.
Yes, I think that it doesn't matter what they heard about the Republican on TV. When you come at their door, there's always this thing where it's like, I cannot stand Republicans, but that Republican, you know what I mean? The one that I spoke to, the one that I know,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I'd vote for them. It really,
Oh, of
it's a real
course.
thing. Especially our brand right now is, it's a little rough. I think we've got a strong base, and I'm grateful for strong base Republicans very much. But I think for those kind of middle grounders, that kind of center independent who just
Mhm,
can't stand DC, they can't stand the rat race, but they love their small business. I feel like there's such a growth area for that, and with people like you running, I think that that could help us, especially in districts that we just haven't touched in a while. I mean, I feel
true.
like there are just so many races where, like, okay, it's too blue, we don't have time. Like, we can't do that. We can't write off that
Mhm,
race. We can't ignore it. We need help. And so you ran for office. Then what are you going to do differently this time, or what did you learn from that last race that you're going to bring into your state Senate 8 campaign? And I know you've got a primary. I get all. I mean, I actually don't know. I don't know if anybody's running
I
in 8, but
do, I do.
okay. What are you going to do differently this time, and what do you want to do when you're talking to voters this year, especially post pandemic and heading into 2022?
I think the pandemic is going to help me. And I know you're like, "What? What?" Well, I think it definitely will. See, again, going back to the demographic of millennials, millennials have been hit hard twice. A lot of people don't realize in our 20s, back in '08 when we had the collapse of the real estate market, and last year the entire planet shut down. So millennials are broke. They really are. And
Yes, we
so
are.
that frustration I can relate to, because again, it affects me. I live here. Um, and as a parent, as an employee, all this kind of stuff matters to me. And millennials are trying to figure out, what are you doing to help us? We have bills to be paid, we have credit cards, we have student loan debt. And with a job market and an economy that's changing, and not necessarily for the better, they want someone in there who can relate and who can get in there and fix the problem.
And Jennifer, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy to have a school age kid during this pandemic. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, I don't know what school Mason goes to, but I've just seen parents radicalized by the effects that it's having on their kid. Has Mason, has that, have you connected with parents on that, of
Oh,
how the
all the time.
pandemic's been handled?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, with conservative parents, because that's typically who I hang around, and Mason goes to a private school, so um, they're outspoken like myself, and they have no issue in telling you the mask mandate. They have an issue with that, and the talk about mandatory vaccines for students, regardless of where you stand. It's certainly controversial. Um, and so for me, I'm a hands-on parent. Before politics, before anything else, I'm a mom, and Mason is my legacy. So whatever is affecting not just Mason, but other children, it has something to do with us. And if you ever get a chance to go on my website, you'll see I have a lot of information about how I feel about schools, education, school choice in general. Um, and I don't know. I think that it's a very unique time that students are having, and I'm scared for them on some level. I'm excited for them because it has brought technology to the forefront, and a lot of kids are adapting by doing K-12 online at home. Kind of the hybrid model of some days they're going in person and some days they're at home. So I think that has been a benefit or a positive throughout this whole pandemic.
It is. I mean, it has forced innovation. Like, I mean, I love teachers. I love, public school teachers helped me become the person that I am today. I'm so grateful
Yeah.
for my CCSD education. But I think that there is a lot of just old sort of ways in our current education system, and it's so wonderful that Mason could attend that private school. I know you want to, I'm sure you're a school choice advocate who you want to bring that sort of experience to public school students too. um,
Absolutely.
but I just feel like education has just, this pandemic, for all of the terrible things, it has forced education to sort of adapt to a new model a little bit in some areas of, integrating technology more, and, integrating parents into the conversation even more than ever. And I think we're seeing those pressures at school boards right now. Parents who, not that they're not paying attention, but they're much more involved than they were, and they're looking at stuff and going, okay, this isn't right, or
Yeah.
this is right, whatever. And so that's wonderful that he's had that experience to, at least, I feel like private schools have really shown their differences as well. Is some have been in-person schooling or provided more options for their students
Yes.
too. I mean, I think that's what a wonderful opportunity for him to at least have that during this pandemic.
Absolutely, and I think that all parents should have the choice of where they send their school, whether it be public, private, charter, online, because every child learns differently. Every family's structure is unique. It's not a cutter scenario because now we have parents working at home. We
Yep.
have, unfortunately, parents who are unemployed, single parents who have difficulty with an 8 to 5 work schedule, and school gets 8 out, 8 to 3. So these are challenges that need to be addressed because anything that is affecting society at large, I think needs to be talked about because it shapes Las Vegas, it shapes Nevada, it shapes our country.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, it's the foundation, right? I mean, it's just, most of us are public school kids, and we're the ones that are going to be affecting, we're going to be voting, and we're the ones
Yeah.
that are going to be, running businesses and employees and bosses, and absolutely, I totally agree. What are your top issues, Jen? What are you, when people ask you at the door, whether you've gone to doors or not yet, but when you go to the door, what are you going to tell them are your top one, two, three, maybe two, maybe three issues that motivated you to run? And motivated you to run for office this year?
So it's kind of similar to when I ran for assembly. It's my top three. Number one is the economy. And I feel that the economy is very important because the financial well-being of a city, of a country, is directly related to crime. That a lot of people who get desperate and who don't have any other option, or at least they feel they don't have any other option, will commit petty crimes, larger crimes. And, studies have shown that the economy has a direct correlation to that. So, high unemployment, high crime. And we've seen an uptick. I mean, if you turn on the news, channel 8, 3, 13, you'll see that there have been more home invasions, break-ins, robberies, because some people, they feel that they don't have an option and they're desperate. So I want to see Las Vegas, Nevada as a whole, diversify its economy. I think that we can bring back more mining. I'm very pro miner. I love the northern part of the state. I'm a big fan of going up to White Pine County, um, Elko, Esmeralda, and that little town called Eureka. So cute. So
Yes, absolutely. They are treasures in the West, really. They
they
absolutely are. I agree with you.
are. Mason loves it too. In fact, I had planned to go up to Winnemucca for the CCRP voting thing, but my plans got turned around a little bit, so I couldn't make it.
That's right. It's the
Um,
state GOP meeting this weekend. That's right. And
that's right.
good old Winnemucca,
Yeah.
Nevada. So
I didn't plan on driving because I'm not a road warrior like that. Like I'd have to hitch a ride with somebody. So if you know
it's
somebody next time, I'm hitching a ride.
it's a long drive because Winnemucca's that I mean it's right in the freaking middle, right? You got Elko's 2 hours away, and then like Fernley or whatever is 2 hours away. It's right in the middle of nowhere of two nowheres.
Of
I mean it's just
nowhere.
so far up there. Yeah, no, and it's wonderful place, nice little town. And I think too, just when people think of Nevada, they think of Las Vegas, and they don't think of that beautiful area of the state. I do.
Oh
I
my
love that
gosh. I like I said,
part
the
of the state.
small town. I don't know if it's because I grew up, watching my grandparents look at cowboy movies, but when I got to get away from the hubbub of the strip and just the people and all that stuff that's here in Vegas, I get on the 93 and I'll go up to Pioche. What's the other one? Caliente, right? Is that the next stop?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Beautiful little
Caliente.
small towns. Yes.
I
And
love
I think,
them.
yeah, and Caliente, you're getting more towards the Utah border. So it reminds
Yes,
me of St. George more, but it's still that like blending of, sort of that small, it's a different Nevada almost,
it
just
is.
those small towns. So
Like you went
it
back
is
in
a
time,
beautiful.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone's super friendly and very quiet. I do love that. I love that part of the
You
state.
can leave your, car unlocked and stuff, but enough about reminiscing that part. I better get back to my
Yeah.
what I'm
I know
campaigning for.
yeah, it's a little far out from state Senate 8. We're talking about I want to know more about your journey to become a Republican. So, I talked to our friend Sherman Ray, and Sherman told me he's been a Republican since the Reagan era. He's 18 years old. He's like, I knew I was gonna be Republican. I have other black friends where it has absolutely been a journey. I have a friend who became a Republican in 2017 because of President Trump. Like, where were you, and what was that journey like to become maybe not even just a registered, like how do you get there? How do you get there to becoming running for office as a Republican?
It was an evolution, to be honest with you. I didn't really know I was a Republican until I was a victim of a violent crime, actually.
Wow.
I had suffered a home invasion a few years back, and it really made me learn more about gun rights, the Second Amendment, laws, and how our communities are really impacted. And that's also part of my campaign. Like I'm hardcore on Second Amendment. Like if anybody knows me, they know I'm packing. So
Yes, I
um,
love that.
yeah, and especially as a woman too, I believe that responsible firearm ownership is the great equalizer. All creatures in nature, Mark included, have the ability to defend themselves. So I think human beings responsibly, again, have that right to defend themselves as well. And our founding fathers, they knew what they were doing. Um, so again, it was an evolution. Um, I started to realize that what Democrats would always have black people in kind of like this negative light in the media. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I don't know any black people that act like that or that live like that. So um, for me, it just the conservative values lined up with who I am as a person, my character. Um, that's not to say I'm like ultra far right or anything. I think I'm right dead in the middle to where there's some issues I'm like, yeah, the Dems have a point. And then there's some like,
Yes, yes. I
so
think most Americans are there, and I don't. I think we these days the media really makes us try to be 100 or zero, and
yes.
try to divide. Especially in Nevada, we're such a bellwether sort of like purplish state, and I kind of like that. Of course, I wish we were all Republicans. Of course, I want that, but Nevada's sort of beautiful like that. We've got this kind of California mix with like mixed with like our conservative values. We're kind of dead set in the middle. I believe I totally agree with that. And I think that's, it's very tried and true Nevadan is to be kind of not fit into the box either way. And so that's very cool. Obviously, that to have that experience happen to you to form your political views is terrible. I would never want someone to have to go through something like that. I can't imagine going through something like that and then have doing that. But it is really interesting to see that is a part of your political journey. And so is it. So obviously, it's more for those gun rights and more for the ability to protect yourself as an individual, that's important to you,
Absolutely.
and that's
Absolutely. I do think, touching back on, what happened to me is, it would have been a totally different outcome, a life-changing experience for those people who broke in my house at 3 a.m., armed, you know, and North Las Vegas's response time was greater than 45 minutes, and I truly believe now, like, they were going to do the same thing I would have done if I were armed.
yes,
So,
yes,
it made me a huge advocate because of experience. I think experience is the greatest teacher. So unless you've been through it, and that's not to say you can't sympathize, but you don't know until you've been through something like that.
yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, I couldn't even understand, what you've had to do thinking that you weren't secure in your person. I think I heard an interview, and obviously this is a very different experience than what you went through, but I think her name was Amanda. She was a UNR student, and she was unarmed, and she said if she was armed, because she had an assault on herself as well. I think it was a sexual assault.
Ooh,
I can't imagine in her interview about not feeling secure in your person, not being able to defend
yeah,
yourself, and not
yeah,
being able to. I literally cannot relate, and I can't imagine that feeling. And I hope that you now having the ability to, whether it's concealed carry or open carry.
oh yeah,
I'm more of a concealed carry kind of guy, but
yeah,
to have that ability to at least feel more, that doesn't guarantee you'll be protected, but gives you another tool in you
yes.
know the back
It gives
pocket.
you a chance. And, I never wanted to be that person that's like cowering down, begging for, the life of my family or the life of myself. And again, that's where firearms training and education comes from. That it's a tool, as you said, there's no guaranteed outcome of anything. There's nothing in life that's guaranteed, but there is that show of force that a lot of criminals will back down once they know, they're like, hey, I don't want no sweat here. I don't want,
That's right. That's
so
right. That's
some
right.
people, all they have to do is hear it or hear that rack or see it, and they're out of there.
That's right.
Um, but if it does come to lethal force, and you got to do what you got to do, stand your ground, state. Just saying.
I, I feel the exact same way. No, I do. And I unfortunately, the media narrative has turned very much against that.
Yes, it has.
I had a conversation with Phil Smith, it's the National African American Gun Association, I think
Naga.
NAGA. Naga, yes,
I know
yes.
Naga.
He is just an incredible person. I mean, and just we had, I had to post 25 minutes of interview. We had a much longer, but he's just an incredible person. The same thing. He was just very much on that. Hey, I'm here to defend myself. I'm here to, it was a very, very simple, reasoning behind, firearm rights. And that's where I'm at. It's about, hey, I'm going to protect my family. That's my goal. And so that's another good thing to hear, about that has informed your kind of route to becoming a Republican and that evolution. Um, Tell me about, and obviously the focus of the series of this interview is talking about being a Black Republican, and what is that like? It's a very unique thing to be a Black Republican. I mean,
It is.
I don't have to tell you that. And I want to the fellow Republicans that are watching this, and the Democrats that are watching, whatever. What is that? What's that conversation like with your family? What's Thanksgiving like? Do you come from a Republican family or a conservative family? Maybe it's not the party label. What's that like? How do those conversations go for you, Jennifer?
Brutal. It's brutal, because the parts of my family who are not Democrat. I mean, Mason's father's a Democrat, so it's tough. Um, I think it's constantly having to defend yourself, that you don't fit a certain stereotype, that you don't fit a certain narrative. And it's sad because I find that it's not necessarily the case with other races. If you see, a Chinese Republican or a Mexican Republican, it's no sweat. But if you're Black, oh my God,
Yeah,
because Black people are not painted as conservative, when historically we've always been. Black people have always had to depend on their community, their family, working for themselves, because again, the history of segregation, after the slave trade, you had no other choice than to rely on yourself. And I think that it's slowly making a comeback, that a lot of Black people are waking up and saying, you know what, even if they don't become a Republican, they're like, I'm just leaving the Democratic. So yeah, it's definitely, I have to fight against being called Uncle Tom, Coon, what else? Aren't you pro-abortion? And I'm like, well, why? You know, I'm a woman of faith. I believe in God. So hey, you know, like it or leave it. And so it's become like they force you into a mold that makes them feel secure. And I'm not a part of any mold. I am a Republican Black woman, and I'm very proud of it.
That's wonderful. I had this conversation with Mormons. I grew up LDS, and I talk with Democrat Mormons, and I'm like, of all the people, Mormons have a very tough history with the federal government. It's a bad history. We are not trusting of the federal government, and I feel the same way with Black people. It's like I'm not a big government guy. The government's not really been good to my history, and I'm sure it hasn't been good to yours either. And
That's right.
I feel that same way. That heavy distrust of government, I think, is kind of pulling people out of not just Black people, but like all of these sort of traditional Democrats, excuse me, like, groups, is it's kind of pulling them away of like, and I'll tell you that the modern left, meaning like right now, especially like post Trump and during the Trump administration, they became they became actually illiberal, right? I'm pretty liberal when it comes to like giving people the freedom, right? I want people to have the
Yes.
freedom to make their own choices, whether it's school, with their bodies even. I want them to have that choice. And I feel like the left now is so much against personal choice, maybe on
Yes.
some certain issues, but they love choice on certain things, but they absolutely hate choice when it comes to schools, and they hate choice when it comes to, vaccine, mandates and stuff like that. I feel like they're very much illiberal. And I think that's pulling away people from that Democratic Party a little bit. They're like, I may not be a Republican, but like you said, it's not that,
Well, I think the left, or the opposition, I'll just call them the opposition for now. I think that it's become, they're exerting too much control, and they're making people feel like their personal individual rights is selfish, and it's not. At the end of the day, we are individuals, and you have a right to express yourself as an individual. And the Constitution is very clear, both state and federal Constitution. It is a living, breathing document, and that's what differentiates America from the rest of the planet. Is that we have that document that guarantees our freedom. Period. It's not up for debate. It's not up for discussion. That's the way it is. And we can use other countries as case studies when rights are infringed, exactly how it goes down.
No, absolutely. That the freedom is being painted as like selfishness right now.
Yes,
I
it
think
is.
that's a very bad trend. I want people to live their lives in their own confines, obviously without infringing on other people, but like I want them to have that freedom. I don't want everybody to think exactly like me, or because I think a certain way to be forced to think how I think. I don't really want that. I feel like a lot of us, and especially Republicans, we're kind of seeing this. We haven't, Republicans have not been consistent on choice. I am absolutely open with that. I think we need to be more consistent when it comes to choice. And we say choice and it always goes to abortion. It's not about that. It's about more than that.
Yes,
choice in all things, right?
absolutely.
I think that's a God-given right. And I think that our party needs to be, more about that, because the Democrats are going the opposite way. I mean, they are going anti-choice, as much as they can right now. And it's not a good trend. It really
And part
isn't.
of what they're feeding on is that we're, unfortunately, as much as knowledge has kind of exploded in the past like decade via the internet and social media, I think that they're preying on the fact that a lot of people really are ignorant to their rights and how to use them. And they're banking on that. And that's kind of why education is important to me, not indoctrination, education. Because you can be indoctrinated to believe anything. But when you're educated, education stands up to the test of time, to criticism, logic. And I think logic and reason really needs to make a comeback. And again, that's why it's important to teach your children now while they're young, so they grow up knowing why they believe what they believe, who they are, what they stand for, the American heritage, right? in the same way, on a macrocosm, like we have a Las Vegas heritage, you know, um, and it's important to pass that down, to have that tradition. And again, that's why I'm a Republican, because I believe in conserving that history, that tradition, conserving who we are as a people, and yeah, I guess informing other Black people, especially, um, about what it means to be conservative and to be Black and conservative.
Yes, absolutely. I am. I love hearing that, and I think a lot of Republicans would say they want to do that, right? They're like, "Wow, that sounds great, Jennifer." But our party can be a little homogenous, and
Yes.
by that I mean our party is pretty white, and
Yes.
it is in a nice way, and everybody's gonna be like, oh well, look at these facts. President Trump did, he won, as much of the Hispanic vote, in fact better than most past Republican presidents.
Yeah.
There's a huge cater, excuse me, of Asian Republicans and Hispanic Republicans, and I love them very much. But when it comes to like the leadership, and it comes to sort of the same 200 people we go to all those events with, right? Those
Mhm.
lunches and stuff like that. I feel like they're like, wow, that sounds great, Jennifer. How do we do that? And
Yes.
I want to know, you as a Black woman, and talking, your Black family and your, friends, I try to talk to, friends of all, kind of backgrounds, religious, non-religious, Black, Hispanic, whatever. What do you think, and in your experience, what does the Republican Party need to do right now, this day, to sort of win these new groups of voters and win, black people back, and those that are questioning the accepted narrative, and they're like, how do we win them back? What's the issue, or what's the message that you
I
think we
think there
need to
has
take?
to be acknowledgement first. And this goes for Republican or Democrat, acknowledgement of a very painful past in American history, right? And with acknowledgement, there has to become a discussion. And I do think there's some responsibility on white people to have that discussion with Black America, um, because Black people feel slighted on many levels, whether it be socioeconomic, um, socially. There are just so many that we can't really go over in entirety in this interview. But I think that having that dialogue first and creating that platform for us to talk about what is it that Black America needs, um, Black Nevada, what we need, what changes are going to benefit us positively. And once we know what that is, then take the actions to implement it. Black people are the most affected when it comes to healthcare issues. Um, Unfortunately, we lead, the highest in heart disease and diabetes and things like that. And it comes from, well, poverty. When you're poor, you can only afford, you're not going to Whole Foods, in other words. You're going to McDonald's for
That's
that
right.
dollar menu. You may not be able to afford good doctors, medical insurance, period. Um, and so all these things kind of encompass the Black experience. And um, and that's not to say that every Black person experiences that, but we're certainly aware
Sure.
of it. And I think
Absolutely.
that once that playing field is evened, then you'll see more Black people start to say, well, these policies make sense, and if they can help my community, and you'll see people become Republicans. But again, it starts with that conversation, that acknowledgement, and just take it from there.
Yeah, I very much appreciate that. And very much agree with that. I think for a lot of Republicans, Jennifer, when we start to talk about acknowledging, uh, America's past, some Republicans get so defensive, and so
Yes,
America's past, as spotted and as bad as some of its moments can be, does not make America any less great. To me, overcoming slavery and overcoming Jim Crow, and there's so much work to be done,
absolutely,
in bringing true equality to Americans in this country, and that transcends racial lines as well.
absolutely.
I'm not afraid of America's past. I think some Republicans are so afraid to acknowledge slavery, to acknowledge
Yes,
the bad things that America as a country has done. The beauty is overcoming that. And the beauty is that America can grow past that, and take
absolutely.
that, and make us ourselves better, take that bad part of us, and make it better, and right those wrongs. And, you know, we could debate for another hour and a half about how to do that. That's the big question, is how. But I think we should be comfortable acknowledging that and talk to that. I love that you said that. Like, just let's acknowledge it first, and then tailor our solutions to help kind of overcome that. I think Black Americans want to hear that. They do.
Absolutely. And that's where you're seeing a lot of the outrage. And, like you said, that they're afraid to touch it or to approach it. But guess what? Black history is also white history. Okay. If it affects Black Americans in America, it's affected white people in America too. We have a shared history. We have a shared culture. We're in a nation at the same time. So essentially, outside of maybe my hair texture and skin color, that's the only thing that really separates me from you. Oh, and gender as well.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, that's a whole nother interview. We have to do that. That's a whole nother. Have to come and set this up again. But Jennifer, I very much appreciated what you had to say today. I'm so glad I could give you this time and talk with you about these issues and get to know you a little bit more. And so as we round out, I want to give you just a moment to give your pitch. What do you want the listeners of today's program to do after listening to Jennifer today? Do you want them to visit your website, learn about your campaign? Go ahead and tell us what you want them to do.
Well, I certainly want to earn your vote. For me, it's not necessarily about winning. It's really about changing Nevada for the better. I have a child here. You guys are parents, I'm sure. And if you're not, you still live here. This is a job interview for me, and I'm asking to get that job. I'm asking to be elected. And if you don't like me, I mean, you can always fire me, but I'm sure that won't be the case. I'm approachable. I'm not a career politician. I'm very much down to earth. Please visit me at fawzy4nv.com. My telephone number is there. Call, text, and hope to see you in 22.
That is awesome. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time. And to the special guests of it's Mark and Skittles, right?
Yeah.
They've been wonderful. So I'm glad to have them. So Jennifer, thank you so much. And I hope you have a great week. And really, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.